What happens when the owner of a fast-growing restaurant chain puts on an apron and finds himself surrounded by shortcuts that put lives at risk? Harlan Tate stood outside the back door of Location 13, an industrial-looking burger joint tucked between a laundromat and a gas station in a busy suburb of Columbus. 15 stores, that's where the company was now. 15 stores built from scratch. No investors, no shortcuts. Just years of grinding, one burned fryer and late-night mop at a time. But lately, something felt off. Customer reviews had dipped. The food was still solid, but there were whispers: burnt-out staff, cold fries during dinner rushes, and equipment that barely passed inspections. Harlan had read every report, but reports lie, people sugarcoat. Only one way to really know, so here he was. Disguised in a buzzed haircut, fake glasses, and a stitched name tag that read Rick, Harlan had signed up through a temp kitchen staffing agency that his own company used when short-staffed. He made sure to go through all the proper steps: fake resume, a few staged references. No one at this location had ever met him. Even the district manager hadn't. Harlan had kept himself off the marketing material years ago by choice. He was just Rick, the new kitchen trainee. The manager of the store, a wiry man in his mid-30s named Doug, barely looked up when Harlan arrived for his first shift. "You're late," Doug said, checking the time even though Harlan wasn't. "Sorry, traffic," Harlan said, keeping his voice down. "Where do you want me?" "You're shadowing Diego today," Doug muttered, motioning toward a young line cook already prepping the flat top with a worn-down spatula. "Don't make me babysit you." Diego glanced up and offered a quick nod. "You ever cooked on a line before?" "Been a while," Harlan replied. "You'll catch up fast," Diego said, flipping a patty. "Just don't put the raw stuff near the cooked stuff and keep moving." It was barely 10:30 a.m., but the kitchen already felt like a furnace. Orders hadn't even started rolling in yet, but the stress was rising with the heat. By noon, the lunch rush hit like a thunderstorm. Harlan watched Diego work fast, focused, but clearly stretched thin. Doug hovered by the ticket printer, barking out orders and timing everything like a drill sergeant. But it wasn't the pressure that got to Harlan. It was what Doug started skipping. "Yo, skip the temp checks," Doug snapped at Diego. "We're already behind." Diego paused, holding the thermometer in his hand. "We always check chicken temps," Diego said. "You want someone sick?" Doug stepped closer, voice low but sharp. "You want me to mark you down for slow service again?" "We're not losing another bonus because of your thermometer obsession." Harlan froze. He hadn't expected that. Not from a manager, not from his own company, not from someone paid to protect the food and the people. Diego hesitated, glancing at Harlan, then at the growing line on the screen. "Fine," Diego muttered. He tossed the thermometer onto the prep table and went back to grilling. Harlan kept moving, flipping patties, handing off buns, but inside, his mind was racing. Was this just a one-time thing, or was this how things worked here? Later, during a 15-minute break that barely lasted 10, Harlan sat on an upside-down milk crate with Diego next to him, both sipping water from cracked plastic cups. "You always skip safety stuff like that?" Harlan asked. Diego wiped sweat from his brow. "Not me, Doug though, always. Says we gotta hit numbers. I've gotten written up for wasting time doing things by the book." "That happen a lot," Diego nodded, his jaw tight. "Every week. I've told the district guy once, but nothing changed, so I just do what I can, but I dunno, man. It's hard to care when no one else does." Harlan looked away, jaw clenched. He'd built this company on doing things right, on not becoming one of those chains that cut corners for speed. But here he was, sitting in one of his own kitchens, watching it fall apart from the inside. He didn't say anything else. He just went back to work. By the end of the day, he had grease on his arms, his back ached, and he smelled like onions and fryer oil. But worse than that, he had real doubt in his chest. Doubt about how far he'd let things slip. Doubt about the people he'd trusted to run his business. He went home that night, pulled out his journal, and wrote one sentence. I'm not sure anymore if this company is still mine. But the next morning he clocked in again because he wasn't done watching. Not yet. The second day started without a word from Doug. Just a wave toward the kitchen and a clipboard dropped on the counter with the prep list. Harlan tied on his apron and stepped back into the same heat, the same flickering ceiling light over the prep station, the same cracked tile near the grill that caught on boot soles every few minutes. Diego was already slicing lettuce, his eyes focused but dull. "Morning," Harlan said, washing his hands. Diego gave a short nod, not looking up. "We're out of gloves until the next truck. Use sanitizer." Harlan paused. "We're not supposed to handle food without gloves." "Yeah, I told Doug. He said don't overthink it." The lettuce went into a bin. Diego moved on to tomatoes. Harlan dried his hands in silence. The bin of sanitizer solution was cloudy and lukewarm. He dipped his hands, then joined Diego, who handed him a stack of buns to slice. The dining room was already half full by 11. A school group crowded in, followed by construction workers with mud still caked on their boots. The line doubled within minutes. The ticket printer started its steady scream. Doug appeared behind the line with a headset on, already flustered. "Diego, we're out of cheddar." "Use pepper jack." "We're not supposed to sub cheese without telling the customer," Diego said without slowing. "Do it anyway." "We're not holding the line just because someone's picky." Harlan reached for the bun warmer but stopped when he saw the inside was coated in crumbs and something darker grease or maybe mold. He turned to Doug. "This hasn't been cleaned." Doug didn't even glance over. "It's fine." "We ran out of degreaser. Use a towel if you have to." Harlan didn't move. Doug finally looked, voice sharper. "You want to argue about a toaster during lunch rush?" Diego gave Harlan a look, something between apology and warning. Harlan grabbed a towel, wiped it out, and kept going, each movement slower than the last. He felt it sitting on his skin now. Not just the grime, but the weight of every decision that had been made without him. At the end of lunch rush, the kitchen looked like a war zone. Fries scattered between stations, sauce smeared across cutting boards, stacks of dirty trays piling up. A girl from the front counter came back holding a receipt. "Customer says they ordered a double, got a single." Doug took the slip, barely glanced at it, then handed it back. "Tell them they're wrong." "They're pretty sure, then tell them we're short-staffed and they can get a coupon next time. I'm not wasting food." She hesitated. "Okay." She turned to go. Doug called after her, "And next time, don't bring every little complaint back here. Handle it out front." Diego loaded a fresh tray of patties onto the cooler shelf, jaw clenched. Harlan grabbed a mop and started clearing the fryer spill near the ice machine. His back tensed as he listened. Doug didn't care about the food. He didn't care about the people. He cared about throughput and numbers, and whatever bonus he thought he'd get from shaving 30 seconds off the average ticket time. By 3, the crowd thinned and the kitchen dipped into the eerie quiet between shifts. Harlan took the chance to speak to the girl from earlier while she restocked sauces near the sink. She looked barely 20, nervous but quick with her hands. "Rough day?" he asked. She shrugged. "They're all like this. You been here long, 5 months. You like it?" She hesitated. "I used to. When Jenna was the manager, it was chill. Then Doug came in and everything's been different." "How so?" "We get yelled at for stuff we don't control. Schedules don't get posted until the night before. And if you're not fast enough, you get your hours cut." Harlan leaned against the counter. "That legal?" She scoffed. "Doesn't matter. He says we're at will. If you complain, good luck getting back on the schedule." "Anyone ever tell corporate?" Her eyes darted toward the hallway. "You think they'd listen?" Harlan didn't answer. Doug came back in, pointed at the girl. "You take your break now. 10 minutes. She nodded and slipped into the back. Doug leaned over the counter, popping fries into his mouth from a fresh batch. "You're not bad, Rick," he said. "You learn quick. Appreciate that. Be better if you stopped asking dumb questions, though. We don't need philosophers in the kitchen." Harlan gave a short nod. "Just trying to learn the system." Doug grinned, mouth full. "This is the system." When the dinner crew started trickling in, Harlan noticed something strange. No one looked over 30 and most barely looked 20. A few had earbuds in. One was clearly hungover, moving like he was underwater. "Where's the shift lead?" Harlan asked Diego quietly. "Should be Zoe, but she called out." "Who's running the line then?" Doug walked by and clapped his hands. "All right, listen up. I'm clocking out at 6. You guys can handle the dinner shift. I'm not staying late again." One of the new kids laughed. "You serious?" Doug didn't answer. He grabbed his jacket, signed his name on the clipboard, and walked out the back door. Harlan stood frozen, no supervisor. No lead. Just a group of barely trained part-timers and 2 cooks who'd already worked 8 hours straight. By 6:30, the grill was backed up. Orders came in wrong. One customer stormed out after waiting 20 minutes for a milkshake. The machine couldn't even make. No one had restocked the mix. Diego looked ready to snap. "I'm gonna check the walk-in," he muttered. He disappeared through the swinging door. Harlan followed. The cooler was a mess. Boxes stacked wrong, raw chicken on top of lettuce containers, ice melting into a puddle near the back wall. Diego stood with his hands on his knees, breathing hard. "I told him we needed more help," he said, voice low. "I told him." Harlan didn't speak. Diego looked up. "You're not just a temp, are you?" Harlan held his gaze. "Who are you?" Harlan stepped further into the cooler, lowered his voice. "My name's Harlan. I own this company." Diego stared at him like he'd misheard. "I didn't come here to catch people slipping," Harlan continued. "I came because I got tired of hearing everything was fine when it clearly isn't." Diego leaned back against the metal wall, stunned. "You saw all of it." "I saw enough, and I'm not leaving it like this." Diego shook his head slowly. "You've got a lot to fix." "I know." They returned to the kitchen. Harlan jumped back on the grill. By 8, the chaos had calmed. The last rush trickled out. Dishes were stacked high, the floor sticky, the trash overflowing. Harlan pulled his apron off and walked to the back office. He unlocked the door with his master key, stepped inside, and sat at the desk. He made 3 calls, first to HR, second to the district manager, third to the health compliance officer he kept on staff for surprise audits. Outside the office, the fryer sizzled. Voices rose. Someone laughed nervously. Someone else cursed about a shift change. But inside, Harlan was already writing the termination letter. Doug would never work another shift in this company again. By the time Harlan returned the next morning, the air inside the restaurant felt different, and not just because of the tension he carried with him. Doug's absence was immediate and obvious. No barking from the ticket printer, no half-eaten fries on the counter, and no clipboard dumped on the prep table. The kitchen felt half-finished, like someone had started building a fire and walked away before lighting it. Diego stood at the sink rinsing trays, eyes scanning the hallway every few seconds. "Doug's gone," Harlan said, tying on his apron. Diego didn't turn. "You sure?" "I made the call last night. He won't be back." Only then did Diego exhale, shoulders dropping slightly. He handed off a clean tray and gave a quick nod toward the back. "We still don't have a shift lead. I'm stepping in for now." "You serious?" "I won't be on the schedule long," Harlan said, moving past him to check the prep logs. "But until someone competent takes over, I'm not letting this place run blind." The early shift crew trickled in slowly. Some looked confused, others cautious. No one brought up Doug directly, but Harlan caught the sideways glances. The quick conversations cut short when he walked past. He didn't explain himself. He just worked. By noon, the line started building. The orders weren't as fast, but they were right. When a customer asked for a missing item, it was replaced without argument. When the chicken sandwiches hit the grill, Harlan made sure every internal temp was logged. Midway through the rush, Zoe stepped through the back door with her uniform shirt tucked into her bag. "I heard Doug got canned," she said, not bothering to lower her voice. "That true?" "He's no longer with the company," Harlan said. "Why?" "Because this place deserves better leadership." Zoe raised her eyebrows. "You corporate?" "I'm the owner," she blinked. "Wait, you're Harlan?" He nodded once. Zoe looked him over, then crossed her arms. "You've been here 3 days. 4. She stood quiet for a second. I called out yesterday because I couldn't take another shift with him. He cut my hours after I told him we were understaffed, said I was being dramatic. You're not. He made me cry in the walk-in once. I reported it. Nothing happened. It's happening now. Zoe looked at the line, then back at him. You need help on register. You're still on payroll if you want the hours. She turned, pulled her hair into a quick ponytail, and stepped onto the floor by two the team was dragging. The morning shift hadn't had a break, and the next crew had only just started arriving. Harlan stepped into the back, filled 2 employee cups with ice water, and handed one to Diego. Take 10. You've earned it. Diego shook his head. I'll take 5. I'm not asking. He finally sat down near the service hallway, sipping the water slowly. Harlan turned to the new guy on the grill, a kid named Marcus who'd started last week. How comfortable are you running the flat top for a bit? Marcus didn't look up from his work. I've only done it once. Think you can handle it with me watching? I'll try. That's all I need. Harlan watched as Marcus flipped patties with careful hands, not fast but precise. He adjusted the heat under the grill and tapped the order screen with his knuckle. You ever work kitchen before this? Waffle Place. Only lasted 2 months. Manager screamed every day you left. I walked out mid-shift. Harlan nodded. Good instincts. Marcus grinned faintly, then focused back on the food. When Zoe returned to the back briefly to grab more drink lids, Harlan walked over. How's the floor feel? Calmer. No one's afraid to ask questions. Weird, right? Shouldn't be. She pulled a stack of cups from a box. I heard Doug used to change the clock-out times on the tablet if someone took too long on break. Harlan looked up. He altered time cards. I saw him do it twice, said he was correcting theft. He stepped back, jaw tightening. Thank you for telling me, she blinked. What are you gonna do? Already did it. I've got corporate pulling every clock entry from the last 3 months. If he altered even one, we're filing for payroll fraud. Zoe shook her head. How'd it get this bad? I stopped looking. She didn't say anything else, just walked back onto the floor. Later that afternoon, a delivery truck pulled up behind the building. The driver knocked twice on the back door and Harlan answered. You the manager? The driver asked, clipboard in hand. Today I am. Your guy Doug used to short sign my invoices, marked things delivered when they weren't. Harlan met his eyes. Can you prove that? I got copies of every one he signed. I always upload them to the portal. Last week he marked 70 pounds of chicken as delivered. I had it in my truck the next day. Why didn't you report it? I did. No one answered. I'll have someone call you today. The driver handed over the invoice. You're not like him. I better not be. By close, the team was exhausted, but the store was cleaner than it had been all week. Counters wiped down, coolers organized, trash bins emptied without being told. Harlan gathered the team near the sink, still in aprons, grease on their shoes. I'm not here to give a speech, he said, but I owe every one of you an apology. You've been working under conditions I wouldn't tolerate in any kitchen, let alone one with my name on it. That ends now. No one said anything at first, then Diego stepped forward, arms crossed. So what changes? We're replacing the district manager, effective tomorrow. Heads turned. He was supposed to follow up on complaints. He didn't. Zoe narrowed her eyes. What about the rest of the stores? I've already sent people to 4 of them, quietly. We'll visit every single one. Marcus leaned against the wall. And us? You'll get what you were promised. Fair hours, clean equipment, and leaders who show up. The girl from the front counter, the one who'd been told to handle it herself, raised her hands slightly. You keeping us all? Harlan nodded. Unless you give me a reason not to. She gave a small smile, then looked down at her shoes. The group began to disperse, grabbing bags and wiping sweat from their foreheads. No one clapped, no one cheered. They were too tired for that. But no one rushed out either. Zoe lingered at the register, counting the till. You really gonna stay hands-on? I don't have a choice anymore. She looked up. You might actually fix this place. I didn't come here to try. I came to do it. He stepped outside as the sun dipped low over the parking lot. The last car pulled out. A drive-through light flickered, then steadied. He looked back through the window at the kitchen, at Diego resetting the fryers, at Marcus wiping the grill, at Zoe double-checking the drawer. There was still a long way to go, but for the first time in a while it looked like a place worth rebuilding. At 7 a.m. the following Monday, Harlan stood inside the regional training center. It was a modest facility located 20 minutes from the problematic store, outfitted with a test kitchen, a few office spaces, and a small classroom used mostly for onboarding. He wasn't there for a photo op or a press release. He was there to rebuild from the inside out. He'd called in 3 store leads from neighboring locations, all people he trusted from earlier years, managers who still lived the company's original values. Each had been with the business for over 5 years, and none had ever crossed paths with Doug. They sat around a folding table with coffee in hand, waiting for Harlan to speak. He didn't rush. "I'm not here to ask for feedback," he said. "I came to give you context. You're going to help me fix the Columbus region, and I need to be clear about what that means." He laid out the facts, no speculation, no gloss. He described the falsified time cards, the ignored safety procedures, and the pressure tactics used to churn out food at the cost of employee well-being. He explained how the complaints had been buried beneath performance bonuses and manipulated reports. One of the managers, a woman named Lena, leaned forward. "And corporate never caught it. They caught what they were shown," Harlan said. "We trusted the wrong people to tell the story." Another manager, Reggie, scratched at the corner of his notepad. "You want us to take over their stores?" "Temporarily," Harlan said. "Until we stabilize operations and train replacements. You'll rotate through Columbus over the next 2 weeks. I'll be working beside you." The third manager, a quiet man named Julian, looked up. "Are we changing the hiring process?" "Yes, no more staffing agencies. Internal referrals only for now. Every new hire goes through this center before they touch a grill." They didn't ask for more details. They just nodded and started taking notes. That afternoon, Harlan returned to the Columbus store, no disguise, no apron. He wore a plain polo, slacks, and a company badge clipped to his belt. The atmosphere inside was subdued. Employees glanced over but didn't stop working. A few nodded. No one looked away. Zoe was counting condiments behind the counter. When she saw him, she wiped her hands and met him at the register. "You back in charge? I'm here to announce who is. Come with me." He gathered the team in the dining area, every employee from both shifts. Chairs were dragged out. A few leaned on counters. No one pulled out a phone. "Some of you know me by now. Some of you only know the name on your paycheck. I'm Harlan Tate. I built this company from the ground up, and until last week I thought I still understood it. I was wrong." He didn't raise his voice. He didn't stand on anything. He just spoke. "There's no excuse for what happened here, not for the way you were managed, not for the corners that were cut, not for the silence that followed. That ends today." He motioned to the door and Lena stepped inside. "This is Lena. She's taking over as interim manager. She's trained over 50 leads in the last 5 years, and she's here to work alongside you, not above you." Lena offered a calm nod. She didn't smile. She didn't wave. She just stepped forward and folded her arms. "We'll be resetting expectations over the next few days," she said. "That means full compliance with safety, scheduling, and service standards. You'll be trained, you'll be supported. And if anyone thinks we're going backwards, they're free to leave today." No one moved. "Good," Lena said. "Then let's get to work." The next few days weren't easy. The team was still short-staffed. Breaks were staggered and short, but respected. Lena stayed through every shift, rotating between stations, watching procedures, correcting issues quietly but firmly. She never raised her voice. She didn't have to. By midweek, HR representatives arrived on site to conduct anonymous interviews. Staff were given time off the clock to speak freely, with no Lena, no supervisors, just an HR lead and a recorder. Several employees came forward with accounts of verbal harassment, shift manipulation, and retaliation for requesting time off. Each report was logged and reviewed against time cards and shift notes. 2 additional employees, both assistant shift leads under Doug, were found to have participated in time theft and retaliation. Harlan met with them directly. "You altered schedules and threatened coworkers to hit targets," he said. "You're no longer with the company." One tried to argue, the other didn't speak. Both were escorted out. That Thursday, a compliance auditor entered unannounced. She wore plain clothes and carried a clipboard that never left her hands. She tested sanitizer levels, checked cold storage, reviewed prep logs. She spoke to employees without revealing her role. At the end of the visit, she handed Harlan a report, stores compliant, barely. But the staff trust that things are changing. That's rare. He folded the report once and put it in his pocket. On Friday, Harlan returned to the kitchen during lunch not to observe, but to fill a gap. A new hire had called out. He stepped onto the line next to Marcus, who was now running grill without supervision. "You still good with the temps?" Harlan asked. Marcus nodded, flipping a patty with his sleeve pulled back. Everyone logged. "I check before I flip. You're fast. I'm careful. That's better." Diego was working expo. He moved with intention now. He wasn't rushing. He was pacing. Orders hit the window in sequence. Customers waited, but not long. No one came back with a complaint. At the end of the shift, Harlan pulled Diego aside. "I want you to come to the training center next week. We're building new modules: safety, coaching, conflict resolution. I need someone who's lived both sides of the kitchen to help write them." Diego looked unsure. "I'm not a teacher." "You're not. Yet," he agreed. That evening, the store closed early just for one night. Employees were paid for the full shift, and a small catering crew delivered food from a nearby location. Staff ate at the booths they usually cleaned. No speeches, no announcements. Just space. As the tables cleared, Zoe walked over to Harlan, who was helping stack chairs. "You're not what I expected," she said. "What did you expect? Someone who'd disappear once the cameras were off." "There were never cameras," she nodded slowly. "You'll stay connected this time, every store, every month, in person." She didn't ask for proof. She didn't need it. At 9, the lights dimmed and the last of the staff filtered out. Harlan stood by the door, holding the final trash bag. Lena walked over, grabbing her keys. "You still want me here this long?" "I want you here until no one has to ask that again." She locked the door behind them. Outside, the air was cool. The parking lot was quiet. No one waited for a ride. No one lingered. Inside, the kitchen was clean. The lights were off. The fryer was silent. It was a start, not a fix. Not yet, but this time it was real.